guys, it's Sam and this is my June wrap-up. I read 6 books in June and had a fairly solid reading month, so let's get into it. The first book I read in June was Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book in a YA science fiction series, and this is one of the BookTube SFF Award YA picks. I've already done a full review on this, so I will link that on the screen if you want to check it out. This follows our main character of Spensa, and she wants to be a pilot. She lives on a planet where a bunch of humans crashed a while ago, and they have been combating this alien race called the Krell. Her father was outcast after he passed away as a pilot and was accused of being a coward, and so this is her journey to become a pilot herself and to kind of avenge and clear her father's name. I didn't find anything to be particularly wrong with this book. It just took me a long time to connect to our main character of Spensa. I found her arc to be very, very slow and then very quick at the end, pacing-wise, and a lot of the other side characters didn't feel fully fleshed out. This is still a fairly fun story, though. I just didn't have a lot of motivation to pick it up because I didn't feel very strongly either way. I will we'll see when the second book comes out how I feel about it and if I would like to continue, but I do kind of plan on continuing with the series right now, and I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. I then read Holy Sister by Mark Lawrence on audiobook. This is the third and final book in the Book of the Ancestors trilogy. I have done reviews for the first 2 books in the series, and I'll be doing a review for this one as well. This concludes everything, so I can't talk about it a lot, but I actually had a hard time getting through this book. I don't know what it was, whether I was in kind of a reading slump, but I was not very motivated to listen to it until the last maybe 30% of the book, and then I got really into it and was listening to it constantly. I still haven't quite figured out what it is. I do plan on re-listening to the series at some point, so we'll see if my opinion of it changes. Everything that happened, I enjoyed on paper, kind of thing, and there was nothing that I would change, but I wasn't particularly emotionally attached to these characters that I've been emotionally attached to for the rest of the series, and the series didn't feel, like the ending didn't feel fulfilling to me, but there was nothing wrong with it. There was loss and a lot of the loose threads were tied up and everything, but for some reason it still just missed for me a little bit, so I ended up giving this 3.5 out of 5 stars. Still, overall, love the series, really enjoyed it, but there were some things that I haven't quite figured out about it that just didn't quite hit the emotional mark for me. I then read The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This is not coming out until November of this year, so I'm going to be very brief, and also I will be doing a full review and gush for this book that will be coming out closer to release date. This follows the main character of Zachary Ezra Rollins, and he discovers a book in a library, and he happens to be in this book, and this takes him down this wild path. This was my most anticipated, but also probably most feared book of the year, because The Night Circus is my favorite book of all time, and I was very nervous that Erin Morgenstern's second book was just not going to live up to the magical experience that I had with The Night Circus, and that was not true. This book definitely blew me away. It's a different story, but still felt like Erin Morgenstern, still was that magical world that I wanted to be in. It has the same flavor of the different tents in the Night Circus, but on an even more expanded level, and I just deeply enjoyed this love letter to storytelling and experiences and connections and all the stuff that I'm going to talk about more in my review when it comes out. But if you were at all nervous for this book because of how much you love the Night Circus like me, don't be. I've compared this with other people, and some people get this and some people don't, but when you have a debut album by somebody that you really enjoy, by a band or something, and then the second album comes out and you're very nervous because sometimes when second albums come out, it's a completely different sound, it doesn't even sound like the same band, and you just don't like it as much. This is like the second album that comes out where you can hear your favorite band in it, and it's the same heart and soul, but it's just evolved a bit and is different. And it's such a magical experience when that happens with music or with books, and this was a wonderful, enjoyable experience. I obviously gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I then took a big turn and read The Nahanni Mooners by Christina Lauren. And this is an adult romance book, and it follows 2 characters who are in a wedding. They are the siblings of the bride and groom, and they are the only people in the wedding party that don't get sick after the wedding. And so they have to go on the honeymoon because the bride does not want to waste the honeymoon because she won it in this giant contest. Problem is, these 2 characters have hated each other for a while, so we get to follow them, and it's an adult romance. So this has some wonderful adult romance tropes of fake dating, there's some hint at bed sharing, there's the enemies to lovers, so much good stuff. I highly enjoyed this. I think I'll be doing a full review. Comment below, let me know if you want me to. I could fit it into my schedule, but I also could leave it out, but I really enjoyed these main characters. I liked the plot in that the things that made them enemies and then turned to lovers was believable. It was more like a misunderstanding, but not in a miscommunication way. The love interest is not an ass, because I feel like sometimes with enemies to lovers, especially in contemporary, you have the love interest as just a douche and then he's just not mean to her. And it wasn't anything like that. Some good body positivity stuff, because the main character describes herself as a chunkier girl, and just, you know, vacation stuff, and there's so much. There's so much, and I really enjoyed it. Also, I've talked before about how I don't tend to love erotica or anything, and this had more fade to black type sex scenes. So if you are kind of wanting to transition from maybe like YA contemporary romance and want to try out as an adult, I think this is a good one. And I'm going to try to read some more Christina Lauren, because I read this in about a day. Loved it. Binge read it right as I was leaving for vacation, and I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. I know, I read a romance book. I don't know who I am. I then read Record of a Spaceborne Few by Becky Chambers. This is the third book in the Wayfarers series, but all of these books are companion stories, so this is an adult science fiction series, the first book being A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. This takes place at the same time as A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and you don't have to have read any of them first to understand this. They can all be read separately. So I definitely enjoy these stories. This takes place and mostly follows a part of a human kind of colony. These are some of the original humans that took off. They're called Exodans, and they were the people that were trying to kind of find a new place to live. Some of them, after more worlds were discovered and a lot of people left, some of them stayed on the fleet, and it's kind of the story of them and a bunch of different characters and kind of interweaving point of views and such. What I love about Becky Chambers' science fiction is that she has these higher scientific things, but she also explores day-to-day life. So instead of it being a really complex military end of the world something going on and with all of this science, she has science of daily life, how politics would change, social interactions, religion, rituals, things like that. And I just find it so wonderful and so immersive. These characters, plot-wise, are not dealing with anything that's life or death, typically speaking. It's just the daily kind of life and death stuff, but not catastrophe or anything like you experience in a lot of science fiction and fantasy. And I just deeply adore this. It feels just like warm and cozy and wonderful, and kind of, it's believable that like this is almost happening somewhere out in the universe, and I really enjoy it. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars, although I'm contemplating bumping it up to a 5. We'll see what I do when I actually review it. And the last book that I read was Summer of Salt by Katrina Leno. This is a YA contemporary fabulism story that takes place on an island, and our main character is part of a line of women who are witches. Every summer, a bunch of tourists and bird watchers come to the island to watch a bird that is believed to actually be one of the main character's ancestors in bird form, because all of them at their 18th birthday have some kind of special power, and this woman 300 years ago apparently turned into a bird. So everyone is coming to view her. Something happens during the summer that changes all of this, and everything kind of goes from there. I expected this to be more of a romance, so there is a female-female romance in here, and I was expecting more of that. Didn't quite get as much of that as I was thinking I was going to, but I really liked the family plot here. This reminded me a lot of the feelings I got from The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender, but not as flowery and magical realism and purple prose as that is. This is a really good introduction, I think, to fabulism and magical realism. If you are just trying to kind of dip your toes in, this is a very good start. There's not a lot of it. It's not all confusing, and it's a very quick read, a great summer beach read, vacation read, anything like that, and I really enjoyed this. And I gave this 3.75 out of 5 stars. So those are all the things that I read in June. Comment down below and let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, and also what your favorite book was that you read in June. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you other guys soon. Bye!